from that view today. At Chequers, he repeated his assertion that immigration had caused major problems for Europe and that Brexit was happening because of concerns about levels of migration. Our first report on this rather eventful presidential visit is by our political editor, Laura Kuensberg.
You don't need to count the helicopters to know how much this visitor matters. President Trump's entourage blasted through the countryside as subtly as he warned this week that his host might not get the trade deal she covets. For Theresa May, her job was not just to grin and bear it today, but more importantly, to try to change his mind. When first the tricky question was asked, he left it to her.
Yeah, have you had a chance to talk about the interview this morning?
We've got lots to discuss. We can discuss our special relationship.
The question repeated. This time, he made a face rather than answer. But after talks back to the choreography around the stately home, exactly where she brokered her Brexit compromise this time last week. The Prime Minister appeared to have taken hold of President Trump and predicted he's now on her side.
We agreed today that as the UK leaves the European Union, we will pursue an ambitious US-UK free trade agreement. The Chequers agreement reached last week provides the platform for Donald and me to agree an ambitious deal that works for both countries right across our economies.
Was he quite so convinced?
Once the Brexit process is concluded and perhaps the UK has left the EU, I don't know what they're going to do, but whatever you do is okay with me. That's your decision. Whatever you're going to do is okay with us. Just make sure we can trade together. That's all that matters.
Mr. President, you seem rather to have changed your tune from what you said earlier this week when you said that on the current Brexit plan, that would probably kill the possibility of a trade deal with the UK. Our countries are meant to have a special relationship, yet you publicly criticised the Prime Minister's policy and her personally for not listening to you this week. Is that really the behaviour of a friend?
I didn't criticise the Prime Minister. I have a lot of respect for the Prime Minister. And unfortunately, there was a story that was done which was, generally fine, but it didn't put in what I said about the Prime Minister, and I said tremendous things.
To be accurate, it did.
She's going to make a decision as to what she's going to do. The only thing I ask of Theresa is that we make sure we can trade, that we don't have any restrictions. I read reports where that won't be possible, but I believe after speaking with the Prime Minister's people and representatives and trade experts, it will absolutely be possible.
And Prime Minister, isn't the problem for you that some of the things Mr. Trump has said about your Brexit plan are right? It will limit the possibilities of doing trade deals easily in the future.
There will be no limit to the possibility of us doing trade deals around the rest of the world once we leave the European Union on the basis of the agreement that was made here at Chequers and that I've put forward to the European Union. And as you've heard from the President, the United States is keen for us, we're keen to work with them, and we will do a trade deal with them and with others around the rest of the world.
He said he'd suggested she should be tougher on Brexit, but never pull the plug on the deal.
And that Brexit is a very tough situation. That's a tough deal. Well, you can't walk away, because if she walks away, that means she's stuck. You can't walk away. But you can do other things. Now,
what about that oft-quoted special, if today, surreal relationship?
I would say the highest level of special. Now, am I allowed to go? Am I allowed to go higher than that? I'm not sure. But it's the highest level of special. I would much rather have her as my friend than my enemy. That I can tell you.
And we are friends, Mr. President.
Where he leads, the Prime Minister is certainly not always willing to follow. But had the President not calmed his tone on Brexit, this vital moment would have been humiliating.
For years, British Prime Ministers have strained to show that they matter to the United States. They want to be listened to. They want to be respected. But with characteristic smash and grab style, Donald Trump has made that tricky, very tricky for Theresa May, just at the moment when she needs friends and reliable allies.
Goodbye to Chequers, then for the President to move to call on one of the few people in the world whose status rivals his. The Queen has now met a dozen American presidents. This spectacle, a product of that shared history. These images, perhaps the ones Donald Trump truly desired. But the politics between our two countries are fraught, the lines less precise. And as both our countries change, So diplomatic decorum is far from guaranteed. Laura Kunsberg, BBC News, Chequers.